Ultimate Tag, the shameless trademark infringing rip-off of an actual sport that sees professional athletes, who've been told not to try too hard, competing against total normies in weird and boring games, none of which are tag. I was going to try and stick to analysing Ultimate Tag from a game design point of view and avoid how bad it is, but who am I kidding? There's so much wrong with this show that it's going to be impossible not to notice, like finding a tiger in your wardrobe, so let's just take this thing as a whole and we'll get onto the game theory stuff along the way.
Go, Blake, run!
So where do we start with this? How did this show get made? The best I can come up with is that Ultimate Tag is a shining example of what happens when old white dudes in a boardroom try to invent a sport. Basically, they take someone else's idea and ruin it. It's like someone showed a 3-year-old 5 seconds of Gladiators and then gave them $10 million to spend. Then the 3-year-old spent $9 million on UV lights, $10 on costumes, and the rest on "this show is terrible." Here comes my favourite line. Does that look familiar? No, this has nothing to do with the first legitimate and well-respected World Chase Tag. Yes, Fox copied the format and claimed to have created it. Yes, they wholesale lifted the tagline and literally called one of their games Chase Tag. No, none of this was done with the approval, collaboration, or licensing of World Chase Tag. But here's the most confusing part. They literally copied World Chase Tag, and they still got it wrong. Chase Tag isn't perfect, but it's young and it works. Testament to a lot of hard work from its creators. World Chase Tag is a fully functioning sport with TV coverage and fans. Ultimate Tag is so bad, I'm worried it's going to put people off Chase Tag. And parkour. And living. So what is so bad about Ultimate Tag? There's a lot to hate here, but for me, it's all about the games. And these games are so badly balanced that they've clearly had to tell their professional taggers not to try too hard. This single element undermines the whole show to the point that it makes the contestants and the pros look stupid. I feel really bad for the professional athletes working on this show, some of whom I've followed for years and have a lot of respect for. These are some of the best movers out there, and they're being told to dance around the contestants to make it look dramatic. So why does Ultimate Tag suffer so heavily from this broken dynamic? Ultimate Tag sees normal people competing against professional athletes, and there's one other show in that category that you might have heard of. Gladiators was all about normal people literally fighting through a series of challenges. The show was massive in the early 90s. It looks sort of similar, right? The big difference with Gladiators is that the games were carefully designed so that both contestant and gladiator can really try. The contestants did their best to win, the gladiators did their best to stop them. And as a spectator, 90% of the time, I believe they really were trying. So is it a problem that the pros are faking it to make the action more exciting? WWE is known for being fake and yet has one of the biggest followings of any TV show, even to this day, let alone back in the early 2000s. People look at WWE and think that people watch it for the wrestling, but if you think about it, it's actually for the stories. If two people you didn't know walked on stage and started throwing moves, would anyone in the crowd care? Would they be invested in which of the two was going to win? Would it matter when one of them lost? Love it or hate it, WWE is world-class theatre. The twists and turns, the character comebacks, the suspense, and the surprise. This is what you can do when you have professionals working with other professionals on the same level. WWE simply wouldn't work if those professionals were fake fighting contestants. The mismatch between the abilities of the pros and the contestants is a clear sign that the game design is not pulling its weight. So hey, maybe I'm just treating this too seriously. I get that this show isn't the Olympics. Is it okay to just have fun? Ultimate Tag is what the TV business calls family viewing, which basically means it's accessible to kids. But often saying a show is for families is actually just an excuse for it being bad, and I don't think we give kids enough credit. Most children can tell when someone isn't trying. Tag is kind of their thing, and this show ain't it. So yeah, maybe this show is supposed to be just a bit of fun, but to my eye at least, it doesn't add up. There's fun, and then there's just boring. So let's get stuck into the game dynamics. The tag strips that the contestants wear mean that the pros have to get closer than they would if they just had to make contact. Pulling the strip requires more control. This is a smart way to try and balance the poor design of the arena, and it works 20% of the time, but mostly the difference in ability between the contestants and the pros is so great that it makes no difference at all. Fox say Ultimate Tag is one of their most watched shows this year, which I don't believe for a second, but if we take their word for it, never do that, and assume they will therefore be commissioning another series, what will they do next? Ultimate Tag is currently jammed between Chase Tag, Ninja Warrior, and full-on Gladiators. If they try to make the arena more inventive, they'll end up with Ninja Warrior. If they bring in other game styles like combat dynamics, then they're basically Gladiators, which only leaves encroaching even further on Chase Tag. The only way for Ultimate Tag to balance its difficulty mismatch is by bringing in more and more capable contestants, a road that leads to people of roughly equal ability competing. At that point, they'll be forced to consider the very same game theory issues that Chase Tag had to wrangle in the early days. Chase Tag call it evasion quality, which is basically a way of rating an arena or an obstacle on whether it allows for evasions to occur. The closer the skill levels of the people competing, the smaller the details that lead to a win, which can cause its own problems. In researching for this video, I had to watch way more Ultimate Tag than I wanted to, but during that time, I started to notice something quite scary. The design of Ultimate Tag's arenas is not only bad from a game design point of view, but also from a safety point of view, and there's one particular setup that demonstrates this more than any other: the final section of the Dodge Tag course. The more you look at the physical design of this section, the more wrong it looks. You've got trampolines leading to a wall, and sure there's a crash mat there, but just look at the effect of that on the poor competitors. The mat is so squishy, they can't pick up their feet and they get crumpled into the bottom corner of the wall every time.
She face planted the button.
The thing that gets me is this is so easy to fix. Just ramp the mat up an incline towards the button and you all but remove any risk. But like so much of the arena design in Ultimate Tag, it seems to be plain old laziness that's putting people in danger. Competitors are repeatedly slamming into that wall head first, and the presenters are laughing.
She might need a back brace after that one.
What is wrong with the people who made this show? Why is no one doing anything about this? In one episode, one of the competitors slammed their head into a metal beam on this exact section.
Oh no. Aaron spun to avoid atomic ant and landed between the pads.
Are you kidding me? There should not be a between the pads in this area. She appeared to hit that thing hard enough to pass out. So what do?
Yeah, I'm fine.
It looks like the medic has given us clearance for Aaron to come back in the game.
They ask the person with a head injury if she's okay to continue and then get her back in the spotlight. This is disgraceful. This arena is bad design, plain and simple, and it's a back, neck, and head injury machine. I genuinely couldn't design a structure that would both look as deceptively safe and be more likely to leave someone with life-changing injuries. As a program maker, it's your duty to look after the normal people that take part in your show. This design is downright negligent, and it's disgraceful to treat your generous competitors like this. If we take a look at Ultimate Tag's taggiest arenas and ignore whatever this is, then you can see they're almost completely linear, as most game modes are based on a gauntlet design where the pros chase the contestants along a single route, with obstacles scattered along the way. In the few game modes that don't use a gauntlet, the gameplay becomes laughably repetitive. Gauntlet-style arenas are traditionally used for time trials, where one contestant races against another, a mainstay of Gladiators. To use a gauntlet for tag, they have to introduce a time delay because the contestant and the pro are starting from the same place and the contestant needs a chance to get away. From a viewer satisfaction point of view, this is a massive problem because the difference between someone getting caught or getting away is an abstract condition. Not the creativity of the players or their specific strengths or weaknesses, but the starting time delay between contestant and professional. Yes, you could say, well, it comes down to how fast they can complete the course. And while that's partly true, it means that for 90% of each game, we're just watching two people individually tackling an obstacle course. You think that's bad? Let's take a look at what happens in the last 10%. We have a few possible conclusions. Option 1 is that the professional catches up to the contestant, but the contestant manages to escape. From an entertainment point of view, this is the best possible outcome. In Ultimate Tag, this usually only happens if the contestant leaves the tagging zone before the pro can reach them. Unless this happens by the skin of their teeth, this is a pretty uneventful process. Option 2 sees the pro catch up to the contestant, which paves the way for the trademark Ultimate Tag weird ability mismatch situation. If I was a producer on this show and this situation happened once, I'd be worried. It's a massive red flag that tells you you've got issues with your game design. But this specific situation happens so regularly that the show basically wouldn't be the same without it, which would be a good thing. In option 3, the contestant and the pro actually end up playing tag. The lengths we've had to go to arrive at this situation, even in theory, are extreme. But even if this situation arises and the pro is caught up to the contestant and they're well matched, the gauntlet-style arena makes it nearly impossible for the contestant to get away. So all outcomes considered, and still only in the last 10% of the game do we get to see anything really interesting or exciting with proper peril. Except we don't. So having explained all that, you'd think that being tagged would have some kind of repercussion, right? Like, if you get tagged, you're out? Nope. Being tagged gets you a 5-second time penalty, and there are 2 chances to get tagged. So that's something, right? Well, there's so much variation in the contestants' abilities that losing 2 tags along the way doesn't really weigh in. The difference between contestants' times is big enough that it doesn't really make a difference. So is the whole being tagged thing really just to create some atmosphere while average people slowly and crudely tackle an obstacle course? So that's not totally fair, as some of the contestants actually do very well. But the lack of peril around being tagged is so stark that on first watch you might find yourself wondering why the contestant is still running after they've been got. The truth is that being tagged, the whole point of the show, just doesn't have much bearing on who wins. But let's end on something positive. No, but seriously, the show is quite diverse, which is a relief, and to their credit, they have some very talented people on their tagging team. But let the rest be a lesson on how not to balance a game.